One minute you've got extra cash, the next minute your dog eats something questionable, or your fridge quits without warning. In real life, time freedom is not something you wait for, it is something you start building. I'm Candice, and welcome to the Money Flow Genie Podcast. So let's stop talking about it and start building. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Money Flow Genie Podcast. I want to talk to you today about destination. Often we think about our financial goal as a destination, but in reality, it is not. In fact, when you think about the destination, it's really more of the money you need to get there. And so I want to talk to you about today is where are you actually going to try to get to? Why do you want to go there? And whether your business you're building will take you there or quietly pull you further away from it. Now, why would I even say pulling you further away from it? It's because that is the point in my life where I knew where I need to make more money and when more is not necessary. Now, we can go into a whole other thing about inflation, but I'm talking about keeping your destination in mind as you're moving forward to build your finances, because you could be building and building and not even know what you're building for. So for 13 years, I knew I had to consistently generate an additional $15,000 in extra cash to pay child support years ago. And there was no flexibility in that. It was required. So in that moment, when I started my quest to make more money, I knew that something was very clear, that I did not want to pay the child support, but I knew that I needed to make more money in order to do it. So this was simply a new financial responsibility that I'd never experienced before, and I didn't understand how the system worked in order to make the money to get there. And the only experience I had with the child support coming in that I had received as as an employer to deduct from people's paycheck. So I had no idea what the money was going to come from and how I was going to make that happen, because there's only so much time in the day. And that was what sent me on this journey of finding financial freedom. It also gave me an extended level of knowledge as to how am I going to do this. And so when this responsibility entered my life, I knew one thing. I had to figure out how to make money work. Not me work, but how to make money work, because there's only so much time in the day. And at that time, I didn't understand money was just simply a tool. I understood money as an exchange, product for services, services for money. And you provide the service and someone pays you. You make a product and then someone buys it, and then you get the spread, the difference between making something and the cost that it costs to make it. When you give away your time, your energy, labor, or materials, money comes back in return. And that's all I knew about money. That was it. I did not understand the banking side of a business. And I did not understand that money could be leveraged. Now, when I think about that for a house, sure, get a loan, buy a house, but I never thought about it as a banking perspective. I didn't understand how an asset could produce income. I did not understand that investing might allow me to create some or all of that additional money without building another business from the ground up. I didn't know that. And so that's what I ended up doing. And so I want to save you a little bit of that extra time, because investing never came across my mind. It wasn't even on my radar. For years, I've interviewed people who have come from financial education early in life. And maybe it came from a parent or a grandparent or maybe a mentor. They grew up around people who talked about stocks, real estate, banking, lending, investments at the dinner table. For a long time, I assumed I had not learned about investing because I came from farmers, hardworking, working class people. We knew how to work and we knew how to produce and we knew how to sell what we made and we knew how to survive. And so that became my teachings about what money was all about. But recently I realized that there was another whole layer. And this is something I was surprised that it took me this long to figure it out. But I grew up in an alcoholic environment. So money was not about growing up in stability. It was in instability, unpredictability. You never knew when something was going to happen. Anything long-term financial planning, that was like not discussed. So that realization is sad, but it's also freeing because it honestly gave me it was a big duh, but that was one thing to teach me. There was no one there to teach me what money could do for me. All I knew was what was the power of example, which was if I work hard, I make money and then I get through the day. And that was my focus, just getting through the day. And that hindsight is 2020, but I surely find it to be true because even after an adult and starting to earn money and investing still did not enter my thinking for many, many, many years. And it was not until I bought my first home did I understand what appreciation of an asset could do. And when I saw that, and it could increase over time without me doing anything, that is when I started to say, there's something more to money than I was aware of. And then I could see the stability and the wealth and how that could increase in my life. But then there was that catch. An appreciating asset may be valuable on paper, but particularly if you're self-employed, accessing those funds to leverage it, meaning getting a loan against it, that requires a whole different process. And it can be extremely difficult. So you can pay higher taxes so you get higher returns on your income for to get a loan, or you can take the legal deductions available to you to make more money and put more money in your pocket. And that's the option I chose. So on my tax returns, I never really, because that's what you have to use to put up money for, sorry, not to put up money, but to actually leverage your home or anything else that you own to show that you can pay the loan that you're trying to get. Well, I chose not to pay more money to the government in order to be able to leverage more money because to me, it was not worth it. And I wanted to keep more of that money I earned. But that fluctuating income over years, I can also raise questions to the IRS if I were to make more money, take less legal deductions. I'm going to emphasize legal, and then all of a sudden start taking them again. I've been audited with the IRS before. It's not that big of a deal. It's a pain in the butt because of their paper process that they require. But if your books are clean, you have nothing to worry about. So over time, what ended up happening was I started to see that why I chose to create a business is that I knew that my real estate that I owned could produce income, but I was living in this house. So I could duplicate that and become a landlord. And so that was something I knew, and that was a path that I chose. And then, therefore, that was money that I had worked for, and I was purchased to invest in an appreciating asset called real estate. But then I realized it's only limited by the amount of rent that I can receive for that home. And then all the offset of costs that go back and forth with owning a property, you have to maintain it in order to get, decent rents. So that could also eat at your profits, and it's not a guarantee. So I thought, all right, in this quest for this extra income, I started looking at, well, let's do that drop shipping business. So I paid a mentorship to go and to look into that. And then I realized that one of the things that they are not telling you is that I was getting caught up in the end result of someone building a business that would take a few years for it to actually take effect. It usually takes about 2 years to know whether a business is really making a profit. There's a lot of back end work that you have to do. It's not simply take a copy and paste website. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of competition, how you can break yourself away from that. And particularly, as we know, Amazon is nothing but a big drop ship business. They have a almost like a monopoly on the world. Not saying that you can't make money on drop shipping, but it was more time that I had when I already had another brick and mortar business. So at that point, I said, I don't want to do this. This is like starting a whole nother business that is not saving me time. It's taking away from more time. And I was stressing out. So what does all of this have to do with what I'm talking about in knowing your destination? I have to know what my destination is in order to keep my focus. Because the reason I was looking for another business in the first place is because I wanted something closer to passive income. But that wasn't passive income. I was being very active in that business. I wanted money to come in with less direct work, and that was not working for me. I wasn't looking to build another job. I wasn't looking to build another business. I was looking to trade every single dollar for hour of my time. That was going to be not possible because I already had that lined up in another business. So, what I've been doing for the past few years, as I struggle with that back and forth, I started to realize that there are ways to invest money that can still produce the income that I need without starting that business. And choosing that right income model is only part of the decision. It's just a part of it. You have to choose something that you can live with, something that you enjoy, something that fits who you are, not constantly being under stress. Because if you're under stress, that's you're not going to stick with it. I'm just going to be straight up with it. You're not going to stick with something that you don't like. And every business requires work, even investments, especially in the beginning. And there's no magical machine that you can push a button and passive income falls out of the bottom. It just doesn't happen. Like those candy machines that you push the little button and the dispenser, that's not reality. A business usually has to be fed. An investment has to be fed. It needs time, it needs attention, it needs systems, it needs mistakes. Because if you don't make mistakes, you're not going to know, oh, that was something that I shouldn't have done. And so you have to pivot and adjust. So when I started my business, it took about 2 years, and I truly knew that that was going to make me consistent money. And I didn't have a large pile of cash to feed it. So I fed it with sweat equity. And that's the type of real estate business that I originally went in, where I was exchanging my time for money. And that meant I was doing a lot of hustle on my end in order to get the owner finance deals and to that type of income. That's a whole different podcast. I'm not even going to teach that. There's so many really good people out there. But when I was trying to make more money, the point of that is that the only method I understood was to work harder, and now I could hopefully work with less effort. And that was the bridge that I knew how to build. But through that process, as I said before, I've learned that something came far more important than the original financial goal. And that was, I learned if I was going to put that much of myself into a business, I needed to love what I was doing. I really did. And that's because when I genuinely enjoy something, it doesn't drain me the same way. And in fact, it can be difficult. It can still take a lot of effort. It can be frustrating. And it also makes you feel alive. It feels interesting and it gives something back while I am giving something to it. It gives something back to me because I enjoy it. My particular business, it gives back to others because of the way that the business plan is set up. These things aren't random. I like to align my businesses with me, who I am at a soul level. And that is not something that you hear people talk about often. I'm an artist. At my soul level, I'm a creator. I'm an artist. I have a master's degree in art. I am an installation artist and sculptor. And so, why my landscaping business fits so well for me is because for hours, all day long, all I do is sculpt the land and I recreate. I take from old things and I make new things. I take compost, recycled material, and I mix it into the soil and I plant and I grow something new. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm sculpting space. I'm looking at it at a different perspective. It's not just landscaping. I am sculpting. I am shaping who I am, and I am shaping the experiences that people have on their properties based upon what I do. And I get paid well for feeding the soul inside me, the artist. And that's not an accident. My real estate business also connects in that same deeper meaning to me. I sell homes to working class people and I hold the note. And I remember what I felt like when I originally started in this business and when I first tried to get a mortgage, that because I had just described earlier about do I take deductions or do I claim more income? That had an end result that I couldn't get a loan at first. And I remember being told I have the financials, but I just don't, I need to have that box checked of a W-2 because I was self-employed. And that was really humbling and humiliating at the same time. And so I decided when I got into real estate as my second business that would be active but less active by holding the note, meaning I'm not responsible for the actual maintenance of the property. It allows me to get back in touch with that hurt that, you know what, maybe I can do this for someone else. And then people that were in my shoes, they get to have the same dream and live the dream that I did. And that so connects with my soul. That became my journey. That became the thing that I started to set up years ago and became the business to feed my extra income. But unfortunately, at the time, I was not aware of the fact that it was going to take as much time as it did to build that business. So I ended up being okay and getting through all of the processes that I need to do to borrow money, to pay off debt, to keep going and get the child support paid. And it wasn't something was on time all the time. Everybody has something happen. And the reason I'm sharing that is that you can still go for your goal, but you want to know at the end that you're going to reach it because you have one. It's not just get to the next thing, get to the next thing. Oh, this shiny object is going to bring me there. No, you have to remember that you're going to have to build something. And that opportunity was in front of me to mimic what the bank systems do. And I learned how to do that kind of hit or miss. And what really inspired me in all of this is that this really matters to me. Ownership matters to me. And I want other people to have that same experience. So I became the bank for other people when the banks say no. And that gives me the soul ethics. I feel really good about what I do. And so when it comes to, say, someone's not paying, I don't get all wigged out about it. I just simply know that this is part of the process because in the big picture, it feeds my soul. And I can watch people become the hero of their own lives. And this is an amazing thing to witness. And I get paid to do it. And what's really great is it's profitable, it's challenging, I'm going to tell you that. But it creates growth within me. It creates income for me, and it also creates impact. And so the point to the business is beyond the numbers. And that's what I'm trying to express to you on this podcast, that no matter what it is that you're doing, you really do need to connect with it and know what your destination is. I'm giving you this concrete example of how to take this new information and add it to something that you probably really already know and make significant changes in your life. Only one step at a time. I didn't wake up one morning and find out, like, wow, I will be able to change that child support payment instantly. It didn't happen that way. It was a process. I started with what I knew. I knew how to work. I knew how to run a business. I knew what real estate could do and produce income. And then I learned more, tripped and fell, got back up, and I learned more. I learned lending, and that's how I learned that is what really wanted to be my goal for passive income, as well as the fact that it fed my soul. It's something that, you know, I've learned that this is why the destination matters. Because when it gets tough, I know my big why. And whatever path you take to improve your finances, keep asking yourself, why am I doing this? Because if you don't have that answer, you probably won't succeed, or you'll find that you've recreated just another job. And that's not what we want to do. We want to create richness in our lives. That's abundance, not the car in the driveway, not the boat at the dock. Abundance is having a rich life, meaning living life with fullness. And like for myself, there was an urgent reason to get started. And for me, that was that child support financial obligation. And that was just the beginning of my learning. And this is why I started this podcast, because I had no idea what I didn't know. And now I know. And I'm still learning. I don't have all the answers. But the reason that the journey starts, it doesn't have to become the destination. My only destination when I started was just to pay that extra $15,000 a year. That was it. I had no idea where that was going to take me. And so you may start off wanting to pay off debt, and you may start off because your rent is rising, and you may start off because you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck, and who isn't? And you may start off because you're scared. And the reason that you get moving, but once you're moving, you have to ask yourself, where do I actually want this road to take me? And you want to keep that in perspective, because I want more money is not a destination. Money is a vehicle. Money is fuel. Money is tool. It is not happiness. Money brings opportunity. So where are you going? Where do you want to go? Because the one thing that you do know is that there's a certain amount of money that will bring you to your goals, but the rest of it you probably don't need. And so people often say they want more money so they can spend time with their children or be with their families. That's just the beginning, but that's not specific enough. What are you doing together? Be specific. Where do you want to travel if you want to travel with your family? Do you want to travel in an RV? Do you want to see the country? Or are you just looking to homeschool your children? What are all of these things going to cost? That's how you determine how much money you need to make. And with all of that being said, do you only want to work 2 or 3 days a week? Then what do you need to make? And during those times that you're working, do you want to create a home where everyone can gather for holidays? Your goal does not have to be, I need to own an island and learn to fly a helicopter. It's simply what is going to bring you peace. You clearly need to understand the life that you want, not somebody else's life, and accurately choose the business, investment, and the financial strategy to support it. It's really that simple. Now, you can create a plan for your life and not just plan for revenue, because that's not going to bring you happiness, because you need a destination. So, what is that? Keep your focus on the prize, but always keep revisiting your vision of what that destination is, because the more you grow, that's going to change and pivot. It might get bigger. You might say, hey, you know what? I've changed my mind. I don't want that. I'm trying to simplify my life, not make a huge company that's going to occupy my life. So just realize, if you love working and you want to choose the work, you want to choose passive income, you'll discover still the challenges, and you'll need to have control over your time in order to do anything in addition to being with people and spending more time. You have to have an understanding of exactly how you're spending your time and keep it in check. So think of it as time like a GPS. You put that destination in. What is my end result? Don't get caught up by the shiny objects. You want to start driving towards that destination by keeping your focus. That's constructive. That will get you there. And remember, you're going to miss an exit as you're driving. You're going to hit traffic. There's going to be something that's going to be a detour. That is not saying that you are failing. That is not saying that you should never have done this. That's called business. We all go through it. And in every business, there's a million different shiny objects. So I'm not promising faster results with any of this, but if you keep your focus, you will get to your destination faster. You will be able to look at something and say, I love that aspect. I can see how it can help me in this business, but it's not where I want to go. You may scale, you may earn more, you may grow a large team. And with all of that, do you want to become a manager? Do you want to have employees? Do you want to have that responsibility? Because someone's got to manage the manager of the employees, etc., and it goes down the line. So there are no small questions. This is the difference between building income and building a life. And only you know what your real desires are. And the knowledge is enough to say, no, thank you. You may have a great opportunity, but that's not my path. It's really good to say no as we're trying to move forward in our lives and keeping that destination in line. So you can choose a passive income business and accidentally create a full-time job. Keep that in focus. And the purpose of money is to support the life that you're building. And the purpose of a business is simply to produce revenue. So today, I want you to look at your financial goal as you're chasing it. And then look at that number. Does it match where you want to go? Does it match what you want your days to look like? What kind of work makes you feel alive? And does that business take you towards your destination, or is it simply a promise for more money? Mine was not. Begin with the information that you have, learn more, recalibrate, release what doesn't. And remember, you can spend those years running towards every shiny object that disappears, and you can get caught up in years in that and turn around and wonder, where have I been? How did all those years just pass? Keep the destination in mind because you are your own genie in a bottle. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Thanks for listening.
The info in this podcast is straight from our personal experiences. You alone possess the power to manifest your desires. You are the genie in the bottle, awaiting your command. So ask smart questions. We're not licensed financial pros, so be sure to consult with a licensed professional, attorney, or tax consultant.